The title of my latest book is called Near Miss: Alternate Histories of Rock's Greatest Personnel Decisions. Okay, so what's the book about and what's an alternate history anyway? So if you're a sports fan as well as a rock and roll fan like me, you've probably spent more than a few hours wondering, what if? What if your favorite team had drafted a different player? What if that rumored trade had actually gone through? And what if they'd hired a different head coach? Would the franchise have been better off? Would they have been worse off? Would championships have been won or lost? These are the kind of questions that keeps fans up at night, and they've always fascinated me. Now, that fascination collided with rock history back in 2024 when the great guitarist John Sykes passed away. My Google feed filled up with tributes and retrospectives, and I clicked on one from an online guitar magazine that stopped me cold. Now, the article mentioned that Sykes had actually been in the running to replace Steve Clark in Def Leppard after Clark's tragic death in January of 1991 from alcohol-related causes. Now, that process, which few people knew much about at the time, reportedly included Sykes, Vivian Campbell, who obviously ultimately got the job and remains Def Leppard's guitarist to this day, Gary Hoey, and Adrian Smith from Iron Maiden, although he had left Iron Maiden during that period of time. So that sent me down a rabbit hole. I started digging up everything I could find about these auditions. Who was really considered? What was the band thinking? And what would the candidates have brought to the table? And the deeper I dug, the more I found myself asking the bigger question. What would Def Leppard have sounded like and looked like if John Sykes had gotten the gig instead of Vivian Campbell? That question led to another, and I recalled reading about George Lynch being seriously considered for the guitar slot in Ozzy Osbourne's band after Bernie Tormé and Brad Gillis's brief tenure following the death of Randy Rhoads back in 1982. Lynch, of course, would go on to rejoin Dokken, while the job ultimately went to Jake E. Lee. But what if it hadn't? What would Ozzy's mid-1980s output have sounded like with Lynch's savage percussive style behind him instead of Lee's more melodic approach? And then another and another. Now, rock and roll history is littered with near misses, almost was's, and roads not taken. These are personnel decisions, auditions, handshake deals that fell apart, and chance encounters that changed the course of bands and careers. And my book is an attempt to explore some of the most compelling of those alternate histories, to take a documented fork in the road, pick the path that actually was not chosen, and follow it as rigorously and as honestly as possible to see where it leads. Now, this isn't fan fiction and it isn't hero worship. Where the historical record exists, I've used it. And where speculation is required, I've grounded it in what we know about the personalities involved, the business realities at the time, and the creative dynamics, and the industry pressures of those times. Now, these are what ifs treated with the same seriousness as a good sports analyst brings to a trade retrospective. So if you're a rock and roll historian like me, I think you'll find this stuff endlessly entertaining. And if you're interested in the book, it's now available on Amazon, and the link is in the description below. So I'll be doing some additional chapters and previewing them in upcoming videos. So if you're interested in this kind of stuff, please subscribe if you'd like to be notified about those videos. And please hit the like button if you enjoy this sort of content. And I'll see you in the next one.